I believe that there is like a counterintelligence play being played against the legacy program and against the people who are behind this cover-up and who want it to remain covered up.
So you were running a counter surveillance operation against the very organizations.
That's a red team's best tool right there. So you play multi-dimensional chess.
Ah, yes. Look, some people have started calling me Josh Stradamus, but honestly, Psionic Josh is fine. No, look, I'm just kidding. But earlier in the week, I did say that it seems like there is a counterintelligence thing that's being played against the legacy program. And just yesterday, in Jake Barbers' full extended 2.5-hour edition of the interview, they confirmed that. Ross Coulthart confirmed that as well. And funnily enough, the theme of today's show is all about human potential, but we have a whole bunch of stuff to get into as well. And I'm really pumped up about today's show. I'm excited. So I've got a few clips from the extended version of the Jake Barber interview, which we're going to show and we're going to talk about as we go through it. We're also going to be discussing the egg, okay? Is it a craft or is it a gift to raise our consciousness? I've got an update on both of the 4chan leaks that we went through earlier in the week as well, and both are quite interesting. But as I said, the main theme of Weird Week, January, week 4 in 2025 is all about humans having psychic potential. And I've found instructions from a very well-known figure within this space that explains how you can try it for yourself. And we're going to be looking at that. Now, towards the end of last year, I was saying that 2025 is going to be huge. You could feel it. I could feel it, and I wasn't the only one. And before January has finished, I have a non-satire video with instructions about harnessing your own psychic ability. It really is just wild. Now, I've also got a couple of little UFO sighting clips to show you guys. Now, you can find, odd, blurry videos of strange things in the sky anywhere these days. On X, on TikTok, they're everywhere. I'm not going to waste your time with an average video, but I have 3 orbs, a clip of 3 orbs rotating exactly like they do in the MH370 videos, and then also a very clear video of the drones arriving in Australia. They have made their way down under officially, and we're going to be looking at that. So like I said, guys, I'm really looking forward to this show. If you're new here, my name is Josh, and I cover all the weird and strange things around the world, which at this point seems to be converging with just baseline reality, okay? Everything seems to be very odd at the moment. This is just our weekly recap show, though, so I also do post regularly throughout the week, kind of keeping you up to date. So if this sounds like your kind of jam, make sure you subscribe, and that way you can keep up with all the things that you won't find on the mainstream news. So let's just hook straight into the show, guys. We're going to kick it off today with the egg. Okay, we're going to be talking about the egg because people are calling it a craft, and it is in the air and it comes down to the ground. So I understand that, allegedly via psionic summoning, but I feel like craft is not the right word. But I could be wrong, and I'm always open to that. We know that elements of the truth have always kind of been littered out in dribs and drabs through entertainment, through movies, through TV shows, since forever. It's pretty well documented. It is largely speculated that Steven Spielberg was essentially commissioned to write Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. to desensitize and prepare the population for a government-led disclosure campaign that just never eventuated. I don't know why, but that is the story. That's not me telling you, that is the story. So, and Steven Spielberg still openly holds a very keen and firm interest in the phenomenon, even today, and is actually working on his next big movie coming out in 2026, which is called The Dish. And just before we really get into this egg segment, which I'm really excited for, I just want to show you this quickly because this came out very recently, and this is from one of the actors who has read the script for this movie, The Dish, by Steven Spielberg, okay? This is what he says. I'll tell you this. I finished reading the script and I bawled. I thought it was one of the most beautiful scripts about our humanity. I think it was just the most beautiful film about our humanity, and I literally cried because Steven Spielberg believes in the possibility of the human beings we could be. That's what I'll tell you. From what's out there in the world, it's an untitled sci-fi experience. You know, Steven's always concerned about the stars and the moon, so I think that's what I can tell you. So I think this movie is going to be very interesting, And it ties into this segment we're about to dive into about the truth being filtered through our media to either desensitize us, or perhaps it's been used to have like a easy way to discredit people who actually discover what's really going on. So the possibility of what humans could be, that seems to be the theme of this disclosure push at the moment, at least if we're looking at the angle of Jake Barber and Stephen Greer. So given this concept, I wanted to look at a few things about where the egg has popped up in pop culture over time. And the big obvious one that a few people have been talking about already on social media is Mork. And Mork isn't meant to be that small, Mork. So while I talk about Mork, I'll try and make him bigger. There we go. Hopefully the rest of these images also aren't small. So Mork from Mork and Mindy. If you can't tell, he's played by Robin Williams there. And he was an alien from the planet Ork who came to Earth in this egg-shaped spacecraft to study human behavior. And this show came out in 1978. That's 1 year after Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But hey, that's probably a coincidence, right? It's always a coincidence. There's plenty more coincidences that we're going to get into. So speaking of Steven Spielberg again, the spaceship in E.T. was not quite an egg, but okay, these are all a little bit off, so that's okay. This is a live show. We do this on the fly. It's all good. So this is the spaceship from E.T., right? Now it's not quite an egg shape, but what's interesting is that it's not a flying saucer. It's not a disc. And I would even say, even in the last, like the whole idea of orbs and spheres is really only coming into this like mainstream within the UFO community in say like the last 10 years tops-ish, on a real mainstream level. Before that, it was still discs, it was still flying saucers and UFOs. So for something like this to appear in 1978, or sorry, I think this was 82 ET, it was around this time, I thought was just interesting. So I thought I'd throw that in there. Now, another thing is cartoons. Now, if we've got any 90s children here, like myself, you might appreciate this one. Now, again, it's not quite the egg shape, but it depicts, we'll resize it. That's cool. It depicts aliens coming to Earth that have these sensational, extraordinary powers, right? So, and I'll give you a little bit of context here because I am a nerd and I do like Dragon Ball Z. But it's relevant. I'm not just going to yap about Dragon Ball Z. So, if you don't know Dragon Ball Z, the two people you can see there are Saiyans, right? So they're not human, but they look human, right? They look human and they came to Earth and they could basically blend in with humans if they wanted to, but they possess these extraordinary powers of strength and, they can channel energy and do all these kind of crazy things, right? But you wouldn't know unless you saw them do it. And what's interesting is in the show, there are also hybrids. So there are people who are from Earth who have genetically inherited these Saiyan abilities who over time, who they like, so when they're born, they naturally don't really know, but over time they can kind of focus on and train and enhance and develop these abilities and become just as powerful as a Saiyan. Now, the reason why I felt like it was worth explaining that is because the idea of alien human hybrids is not far-fetched. Like it's all part of the same narrative, right? So I just thought that was interesting. Now, if we come a little bit more recent, and I'm preparing to resize this one. Oh, it worked. Amazing. This is, we all know the story of Superman, right? Now, the way Superman arrived on Earth has been depicted in many different ways. But it's always a pod. It's always like some kind of little capsule, right? This is from quite a recent rendition of Superman called Superman and Lois. And this is Superman arriving on Earth as a baby in a little egg-shaped pod. So again, it's a human who comes from another planet who could blend in with all the humans here if he wanted to, but he possesses these extraordinary powers. It's interesting. Now, another one, this one's maybe a little bit of a stretch, but it's going to tie into the rest of the show a little bit later. So bear with me. I like to weave. The movie Arrival. Now, first of all, if you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend you watch it. It's a fantastic movie. If you're into this topic of aliens and UFOs and whatever, but you kind of struggle with generic kind of sci-fi movies, like I kind of do. Like, I love this stuff, but I do struggle a bit with like your average sci-fi. I highly recommend this film. It is fantastically written. It's got beautiful cinematography, and unlike the more sort of cheesy line of sci-fi, this movie explores the concept of non-linear time, which is something that is spoken about in the UFO narrative, and humans having the ability to see it. So humans having the ability to see the future and have these kind of extrasensory perception, psychic, psionic abilities. So it's very fitting. If you've never seen this, I really, really do recommend it. And if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Now, the next one is actually a book. And this is going to set up the rest of the show. So this is a book called Mind Reach: Scientists Look at Psychic Ability. This was written by Russell Targ and the very famous Hal Puthoff and was published in 1977. Again, there was obviously something going on in the late 70s and 80s, and I really feel like there were plans to prepare the public and get some of this stuff out there, and then something happened and that all changed. I don't know what, but I think if we look at the themes that were around in the pop culture at the time and this being released, I think there's probably something to that. Or maybe it's just a coincidence. So, on this book that talks about psychic ability, we have an egg. An egg that is cracked open with what looks like a cosmic web of an infinite space. And this egg with the cosmic web of infinite space has absolutely zero context with the actual book, right? It's about psychics and studying them and mind reach and these very well-known scientists. What is the egg, though? How does that relate? Well, we don't know. That's why it's interesting. So this, like I said, this was published in 1977, but a handful of pages were redacted and classified. But in 2003, they were declassified, and they contain information on how you can have a go at remote viewing yourself. And as always, I have them for you. Of course, I have them for you. I'm not going to invite you over to my house without any food for you. Okay? Come on. I look after you guys. But just quickly, I wanted to throw this in here while we are looking at interesting depictions of eggs over time. This is the Anunnaki or the Sumerian gods, right? Now, everyone looks at this. I'm going to make this a bit bigger, actually. Everyone looks at this and says, a lot of the questions are usually like, what is the basket? You know, we always see them holding a basket in these hieroglyphic depictions around the world. What's on their wrist? That looks like a wristwatch, and it does. Good question. But what is in his hand, in his right hand? That looks like an egg. We have zero context here. Now, what I will say, though, is that sometimes this shape is depicted as a pine cone. So it's like the same shape, but it has texture within it that represents a pine cone. So, of course, it could be a pine cone, or it could be an egg basket. And this god is coming down with this basket of eggs and is gifting these eggs to humanity. Are these Sumerian gods who allegedly seeded Earth seeding planets with these eggs that emit a divine frequency that connects with the human mind and elevates us over time? Is this how we went from cavemen apes to where we are today in a comparatively very short amount of time to our total existence? That's what we're about to talk about. Now, we've got a bit of a tangent incoming, okay? What I'm about to talk about is not part of the show. Well, it wasn't until I was writing it. And then it just kind of felt like something came over me and I just kept writing, and this is what I have to say. So, these things, as Jake Barber has said, they elevated him, okay? So a frequency connected with him and has stuck with him. And as is said through people who discuss this topic, that to have telepathy, to have these kind of abilities, the most important thing is that you are open to it, that you have an open mind. So I think this is really important, and it completely relates to the whole theme of the show. And I just have this feeling that I wanted to share this with people. So We're speaking about elevating us if we choose to connect with this divine energy and opening our minds to the possibility, right? Only if we choose to. The universal law that we all hear about is that nobody can change your free will. That's like the one universal rule. The divine and spiritual with limitless potential is there if you choose to see it. Not just see it, but are open to it, the truth of it, and accept it. And it's hard to accept because we are told that it's not true. That psychics aren't real and that spiritual people are just like dumb hippies, right? That is what we are fed. Well, okay, now it's coming out that that is not the case. And we've got a whole heap of, basically, I've cut up Jake Barbers' interview, but I'm not looking at a lot of the clips that everyone's been sharing on socials. To be honest, like the things that I've got here, I feel like are much more important that relate to this. So why are we being told that it, like if these things have been studied by the CIA and Project Stargate, and Jake Barber is saying that psionic assets are used regularly to connect and bring these craft down, why have we not been told about this? If this information has been known and studied for a long time, who has decided to hide it from us? Who wanted to keep humanity in the dark and keep our potential hidden from us? Well, it's obviously whoever is in charge, right? It's whoever is pulling the strings, and whoever those people are also seem to be obsessed with conflict and war and filling your mind with fear, okay? Because they're in charge. The people in charge haven't told us about this ability until some whistleblower came out and told us. And the people in charge have also had us in a state of war for the best part of a century. A whole century. That is evil. Okay, that is a negative energy, a dark force at play, and it has been winning. Now, I mean, obviously, like, look around you, evil is winning. I'm sorry, but it is, and it's also important to say that it hasn't won, it's not over, and it's not finished, but right now, if you look at the world, I think we could agree that evil is on top. But just like the divine, as Jake Barber has said, evil can't affect your free will. It only wins if you let it in, or if you allow it to. If you shut your mind off to your amazing potential and live a life of consumption and greed, like you're told to, you will propagate that same energy in your reality, and all of that same energy will just come straight back to you, and you will then live in this cycle of consumption, greed, and fear, just like you're told to. So let's take a look at this. You may have seen something like this before. If any of you guys are feeling like in a bad place, which is totally normal right now because the world is not in a good place, if you're feeling like stuck, low, or at a really bad point in your life, I think really knowing and understanding that there is a literal pathway back to reclaiming your mind is way more empowering than any medication or drug is ever going to be. And I'm telling you this because I've taken this path myself from the very bottom pretty much to somewhere close to the top. And I'm telling you this stuff from a first-hand experience that it is real and it works. And I know it can, if you are somewhere down here at the bottom of this scale, it can feel extremely overwhelming and confusing. And you're probably asking, like, where do I start? I'm not going to stay on this for too long, but I do think it's important to talk about. So, simple things. Go for a good walk, work up a little sweat, and then come home and eat a good meal. That's it. Do this, but if you do this, I want you to analyze it. Before you go on a walk, think about how you're feeling. Maybe write it down and be honest with yourself. If you're feeling like dog shit, write it down. Write how you're feeling. Do the walk, come home, eat the good food, and do it again. And be honest and analyze how you're feeling. You will see an improvement. You will. As we're about to see soon, it's not philosophy. This isn't like good vibes. This is physics. Okay, this is the kind of physics that are going to be injected into the mainstream very soon. That's my opinion and feeling based on the way this trajectory is heading. So, like I said, you will see an improvement, and that right there is then your proof of concept. And now you're going to take that strategy and start to employ it on a larger scale. Okay. So then you can start looking at things like meditation, giving time for your mind to clear and unwind, because it is a crazy fast-paced world that we're in right now. And your poor brain sometimes needs time to just chill and relax for a second. Maybe put on some music that you really like, because music is obviously frequency, and you put on those frequencies that make you feel good, it's going to lift you up. Talk to a friend or a family member who makes you feel good. The more of these positive actions and positive intentions that you create, the faster you will climb up this scale. The more you do, the faster it'll go. It's simple. It seems hard, but you follow the steps and it works. Now, in what feels like a different life now, I can probably put this down for a moment. In what feels like a different life for me now, I was a very pessimistic and negative person. I remember seeing people who had like success in their life and were happy, and feeling emotions like resentment and like jealousy and anger, thinking things like, yeah, it must be nice to be so successful and so happy. Like total victim mentality, which is, I know it's embarrassing, right? But it's true. And I'm not afraid to admit it. And I'm not afraid to admit it because I think this could help people. I even have this, let's pull this up for a sec. If we look here at 175, you see the word pride. I have that word tattooed on my hand. You're probably not going to be able to see it, but I do. That was my first tattoo when I was 18 years old, along with that one, which says something else. But this one is the only one that's actually on this chart. And at the time, I thought it was awesome. I was, proud, now I don't resonate with that at all. In fact, I've thought about getting it removed, but I won't do that because in a way, it's part of my story, right? It's part of your story, and you shouldn't be ashamed of who you are and your journey. And everyone starts in different places, and we all make our way in our own time. So people like that, the people that I was just referring to, who I thought were so happy because they had all this success in their life, I now realize that they're not happy because they're successful. They're successful because they're happy. And that true happiness comes from within and like doing that kind of inner work. For some people, okay? Some beautiful people are just born with a smile on their face from day one, and they are the lucky ones. But that was not the case for me. Now, I want to add this as well, that sometimes your environment that you're in can have a dramatic effect on your mood. This is something that Dr. Andrew Huberman has spoken about from a much more scientific point of view than I can give you, but I can give you the layman's version of it. So when you've been stuck in a low vibrational state, feeling, a lot of the things in like the lower third of this table here for an extended period of time, maybe even go as far as being depressed, your mind begins to attribute those emotions to your surroundings, okay? And you might wake up, open your eyes for the day, nothing has happened to ruin your day yet, but you see the same wardrobe with clothes hanging out of it, you see the same pictures on the wall, your lounge suite, your dining table, all the things that you've been looking at every day when you've been feeling shit. And all of a sudden your brain starts being like, okay, yep, that's right. We feel shit. That's right. Yes, we feel shit. That's what we do. So suddenly your mind is firing all of these emotions and feelings that it's used to attaching to these objects. And now suddenly you're hating your life and you've just woken up. Nothing's even happened yet. Okay. This is science. Sometimes a holiday can fix this. But if it's bad, you'll probably get back from your holiday and again, you'll see all of those things and you'll probably get ripped to an even lower place. Sometimes it gets called like, post-holiday depression, post-holiday blues. Okay. That is real. So if this is the case, as extreme as it is, moving to a new place and getting a fresh start could be really beneficial. Doesn't mean move state or anything like that. You don't have to move country. Just even if you just moved down the road, it's about just different surroundings, a fresh slate, wipe the mind clean, start again. These things are real. So you might be looking at this chart as we've been talking about it and thinking like, where do I fit in? Like, where do I think I am in this right now? And I want to highlight that this isn't linear, right? You might be experiencing like right up the top, like love and joy and peace on a pretty daily basis. You're vibing really high, you're feeling good. That doesn't mean like you're never going to get angry or you're never going to have grief come into your life. It's okay to like feel those emotions, right? But it's not like you're never going to experience them, but it's how you deal with them and how quickly you can process them, forgive, accept, understand, and let it go. Okay? Because when you hold on to those emotions, they stay with you and they are like an anchor on your energy. Okay? You will never go up there if you are holding on to someone who hurt you a long time ago, or if you are still pissed off at someone who screwed you over at work, or an ex that cheated on you or something like that. Forgiving is not for the other person. It is for you, because while they're off living their life, being happy, not even thinking about you, you're there angry, ruining your own life thinking about them. So they're even screwing you over again. The longer you hold on to it, the longer they're screwing you over. Okay, so you owe it to yourself to let it go. Now let's look at this. Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. And that was Albert Einstein. This is someone who traditionally is regarded as the best thinking and problem-solving brain that we've ever had. And if you can't take his word for it, then I don't know what to tell you. This stuff is real. And you can change your reality if you're unhappy with it by an order of magnitude by just simply changing your mindset and perspective. And according to Jake Barber and many others who have made similar claims before him, you can't access these, I wouldn't even say, you can't access these psionic abilities that we all apparently have if you are operating in low vibrational states. It's that simple. Raise your vibration and you literally begin to engineer your reality with intention and application. Again, I have experienced this personally. Now, I will read you how Hal Puthoff explains how anybody can begin to learning to remote view and sharpen their sixth sense. But first, I want to look at a few clips from the extended version of Jake Barbers' interview to give context, right? Because, these things are very heavy hitting. They're very impactful. And I feel like rather than just give it to you straight away, we got to let it cook a little. Okay. I want to give you the context, understand what we're doing, and then we're going to throw it down and we're going to learn how to remote view. Okay. So as according to Jake Barber's interview, human psychic abilities is, in my opinion, the main revelation from that video, not the egg. Okay. The egg is interesting. That's why I wanted to talk about it. But what we really need to be focusing on here is the fact that we all apparently have the potential to be psychic. And that I think that could change humanity. So let's move into Jake Barber now and start checking out some of those clips. So the first one that I'm going to show you, he's basically referring to his experience, the divine frequency that connected with him when he was retrieving this craft.
Do you think it's made you a better person, that experience?
It has made me a more sensitive and aware person, which I think all of us would be better people.
So that was a moment when you became aware of, at the very least, a technology that had the capacity to touch you remotely. Telepathically.
There we go. A technology, some kind of alien technology connected with him and made him a more sensitive and aware person. Maybe these eggs are a technology designed to lift up our civilization. The questions behind the origin and the meaning of this egg are very profound, and I'm not going to pretend like I know, but we will speculate and I will give you my opinions. But I will say that all of us, all of humanity, if we are to open our mind and accept this and lean into it, would be better people and we would create a better world.
And I understand he ran the gifted and talented education program for that school district.
Yeah, you could say he was the ambassador for this area for the GATE program, which was a program for gifted and talented kids. And my personal experience with that was great. It was, I just got pulled out of normal class a couple of times a day, at least twice, and got to go to a private classroom where I had one-on-one time with a staff member there who played a lot of games with me inside and outside, and we ran a number of creative classes together. And outside of that, I also, after school, I would attend, I had a private art teacher, I learned music. And so I felt like I had a unique education experience as a kid. But what I used is intuition. If we make a spectrum and we put intuition on the conservative side, let's say the right side of the scale, on the more far out side, that might be something that looks a lot like telepathy or telekinesis. And we call this psionics, which we can talk about. And so I knew I was intuitive, I knew I was creative, and I also know I had good imagination. And so looking back, it was clear that becoming a red team expert, those are the tools that I would deploy. My intuition and creativity is what made me successful in that capacity.
I'm quite struck by how many very senior elite soldiers, special operations soldiers, when they admit what they do in a combat situation where they're facing imminent harm, there's often a moment where they talk about intuition.
Yeah.
Precognition.
Yeah.
They knew something was about to happen. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, I would say that I have a keen ability to make good decisions, short term and long term. I also find comfort in chaos, you could say. And I actually see things more clearly in chaos and tend to make very wise decisions.
And is that a quality that you recognize in a lot of your colleagues in special operations?
Yeah, you might be interested to know that people at an elite operator level, there's a lot of them that are left-handed, a lot of them that were artists as kids or still are, very good drawers, illustrators, musicians. They're also, if you were to describe their personalities, you might find yourself using some oxymorons like peaceful warriors, sensitive savages, you could say. That's a real thing. And I'll add one more. We're a bunch of dead serious goofballs. So there's this dichotomy between feminine and masculine at the extremes that I don't know if you could go as far as to say as the big blue Air Force and the big black Department of Defense knows what they're doing and they're prospecting for these kids at a level and they're planning this long-term, well thought out path. But what you will find is that we end up making our way there.
So there's a couple of things we want to talk about in that clip. First of all, he talks about the GATE program. So that is the Gifted and Talented Education Program. This is not new. This is not a revelation. People, as far as I know, people kind of pieced together the GATE program by over time. These people, as they grew up and, got into their 20s and 30s and the internet came out, they started, I think, getting in touch with other people and connecting dots and realizing that hey, did you, I used to get pulled out of school and get taken to this weird thing where we would just do little games and solve puzzles and whatever. And this program was scouting children who had the potential for a natural level of ESP, essentially. And people began to piece this together. So this is just more evidence that this stuff has been around for a long time. And Jake Barber is saying that the people who end up in these high-level positions as operators and these psionic assets, they've all got these same qualities. And he said things like peaceful warriors, sensitive savages, dead serious goofballs. To me, this sounds like people who have a very balanced masculine and feminine energy, people who are in balance and alignment. And he said people with psychic abilities are often creatives. writers, musicians, artists. And a big thing that rang a bell for me was when he mentioned artists. So I've got a big weave here for you, okay? So this is another little clip, it's 2 minutes. We just mentioned, when we talked about Arrival, the idea of non-linear time. And again, Arrival, very artistic movie, beautifully presented, beautifully written, great cinematography. And Jake is suggesting that creative people are usually prone to having these psychic abilities. Abilities that potentially allow people to see the future or tell the future.
As an artist, when we get into our flow, we're not consciously thinking about every decision that we make. We're not consciously thinking about every brushstroke that we do. And I'm sure all artists would agree with that. And I'm sure they would agree that after being in these kind of flow states where you're not really consciously thinking, there's always a weird sense of time distortion.
Like, it can feel like 2 hours is in 20 minutes. You're just kind of away and you're off and you're just creating. When we enter this state, my personal belief is that we are tapping into some form of higher consciousness that operates from a higher dimension. Now, if you believe in the block universe theory, where time exists as the fourth dimension, meaning that all moments in time, past, present, and future, exist simultaneously in a block of space-time, and we just exist within a certain point of that block. Some people assimilate it to a loaf of bread, and that the whole loaf of bread is everything that's ever and will exist, and we are just one slice. The whole loaf exists at the same time, but we can only perceive us and our slice and where we are. Now, this is actually a theory that Einstein laid the foundations for, and that many scientists and theoretical physicists have since then supported and built upon. So if this is the case, it would mean that our higher self, our greater consciousness, is operating from a higher dimension. And if the fourth dimension, time, is the next one, it would mean that it's operating from a place where the past and the future is visible, meaning that when artists get into their flow state, I'm going to try and explain this as best as I can, they're drawing some kind of subconscious inspiration from a direct and free-flowing creative communication line with a version of themselves that is operating from a place that is all-seeing and eternal. And that's how, I believe, the Simpsons creators did this. Ah, yes. Josh Stradamus strikes again. Now, we have a little bit more from The Simpsons in today's episode, but we're going to save that for a bit later because I don't want to get too distracted here. Let's look at the next clip. This one is a good one.
I'm told that there are particular indigenous communities around the world, Native Americans, people in different third world countries, who apparently have enhanced psychic abilities that are recognized.
Sure. I think most people could grasp the idea that perhaps people that are from other cultures, our culture leaves a lot to be desired when we look at the contaminants that exist in our food, contaminants that exist in our drugs, and contaminants in our culture. And some of these contaminants, it turns out, aren't great for your spirituality or your consciousness or your psionic abilities. And so those who live a particular lifestyle or live in a culture where they have a more natural or direct way of life with nature and their surroundings seem to, within those groups of people, there's a little bit higher demographic than there typically is for those with a psionic ability. So these people are sought out and are used to contribute to the research that might be going on with the psionic.
I want to put something to you.
Yeah.
I've spoken myself, you haven't told me this, but I've spoken myself to people of Native American background, Indigenous Americans, who say that this is a particularly popular thing for recruitment from the program to happen in Indigenous American communities.
Yes, I know that for a fact.
There are also people from countries in the third world where these abilities are recognized and not treated with stigma as we do in the Western world.
Yeah, there is no stigma. In fact, if there's any stigma, if you're the one who's not playing along, you might be the outcast in those cultures.
So the irony is that part of your discovery inside the program is that there genuinely are people who can actually make a mental, spiritual connection to a technology.
Yes, 100%.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack here, guys. So this is crazy. And I don't really want to smile when I say it, because the fact that Western culture has publicly, blatantly denied these abilities and almost treated indigenous people like outcasts, meanwhile, they're bringing them in and exploiting their incredible ESP abilities. Like, that is actually horrific. The fact that all over the world, the white man has came in and ripped up indigenous culture, conquered their land, and then at some point has realized that these people have these exceptional capabilities. And rather than championing them, asking them to teach and lead and help us, they've suppressed it, lied about it, filled your head with war and propaganda, and made sure you keep just chasing the dollar in the rat race. Meanwhile, they're using those exceptional abilities to their own benefit. I don't know how to say this any other way, but it honestly feels like the root of Western culture is evil. We are the bad guys. Now, not you and I, like you and I aren't responsible for this, but we are responsible, if we choose to be, and I think we should, for making a change. You know, when people grow up with childhood trauma because of a poor upbringing, which happens a lot, sadly, we have empathy, right? Because it's not their fault. But once you become an adult, unfortunately, it is now your responsibility to work on those things and fix them, okay? You have to take responsibility because that's just life, and life isn't fair, and we know that. Zoom out and expand that concept, and this is what we are dealing with here as a society. We need to fix the generational trauma of our culture, like Western culture. Again, I've experienced this firsthand. As an Aussie, I'm lucky enough to live a 4-hour flight from Bali, which is a very cheap holiday for us, and I go there regularly. I love Bali. And if you've never been to Bali, and I'm sure there are other countries in the world that are like this, Thailand is very similar, but I think Bali is a better example, because you will go to Bali and you will red pill yourself on how fucked Western society is. The people who live there have nothing. Compared to us, they have nothing. They live in small, tiny, very average and basic houses, some of which their whole house is probably the size of your bedroom. And a mum, dad, and a kid might all sleep in there. And that is their house, okay? I'm not exaggerating. And they are the happiest and most beautiful people you will ever meet in your life. And you know what else they don't do? They don't consume the news like we do. And a lot of them don't even own a TV. They call Bali the land of smiles. That's like the nickname, right? And it's for a reason, because this country is not caught up in the rat race chasing materialism and wealth. The roads in the tourist areas of Bali are an absolute nightmare. Like, it's so busy, especially these days, because it's getting so popular. You are constantly like bumper to bumper. There's scooters everywhere. And by the way, there's basically no road rules. It's a literal free-for-all. And nobody gets road rage. The traffic just ebbs and flows, and it moves like the ocean. It's so weird, and it just works. Like, everyone just kind of looks out, respects each other, and of course they have crashes sometimes, but so do we. We have red lights and all that kind of shit. People still crash. So it's not to do with the way they do it. Crashes just happen. And then, so you experience that, and no one gets road rage. You come back to Australia, the roads aren't like that at all. They're still busy, but not like Bali. And the people who live in their nice 3-4 bedroom house with 2 brand new cars, stressed as fuck, racing to get back to work to try and earn a promotion, screaming at someone who's just cut them off, not even considering that the person who cut them off might be in an emergency. Maybe they're running late for something. We don't think about that. We just give them the middle finger and scream at them, right? We are fucked. We lack understanding and we lack empathy, and it really needs to stop. Now, when I say we are fucked, not all of us, okay, I don't want to paint us all with the same brush, because there are heaps of good people, but I would say the majority are. I would say the majority are fucked, unfortunately. And another interesting little fact about Bali and the UFO phenomenon is, and the psionics, is that Bali is an island of Indonesia. And where was Michael Herrera when he claims he saw a giant 300-foot craft being loaded by a Black Ops unmarked military full of shipping containers that contained people? People that Jake Barber says Jake Barber confirmed that were being trafficked for their psionic abilities. Indonesia. Okay? That was in Sumatra. That's Indonesia. Same as Bali. So connect the fucking dots there. Now, I do just want to say that the word trafficked was part of the narrative before Jake Barber came out. And Jake Barber has kind of clarified that it's a shame that that term got used because, yes, these people get scooped up in natural disasters. Okay, so when these tsunamis happen, which is why Michael Herrera was there, these people who lose their homes from countries that aren't calcified by Western culture and naturally have these abilities are kind of scooped up, taken to the United States and offered the opportunity to try and see what their natural ESP is like and to develop it further. And then they use them as assets and give them a fully paid and looked after life that is probably thousands of times comfier and lavish than what they're used to living in Indonesia. Trust me. So I just wanted to clarify that thing up about the trafficking thing. Now, just before we get into the next clip, this is an older video of mine, okay? It's about the Hopi prophecy, the age of purification. And if what I'm talking about right now about Western culture versus Eastern culture, if it's resonating with you and you haven't seen that video, go and check it out. It is a bit of an older video of mine, but the message that was given to us by the Native American Hopi tribe in 1972, the prophecy is much older than that, needs to be heard even louder now. Okay, so if you haven't seen that, I'd recommend you go and check it out. But let's look at the next one.
What do you speculate brought that craft down?
Well, I'm certainly speculating, but after my experience, I think what may have happened in that case is it may have been a craft that was attracted to a psionic asset or was being operated by a psion. If that craft was ours and it was being operated psionically, there's this thing called link loss. Link loss is a common phrase used with drone operation. Drones or UAVs, as we call them, unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAS, they're also called that, unmanned aerial systems, are operated remotely. In the off chance that there's a disconnect between the operating system or the transmitting side and the receiving side within these craft, it's called a link loss. And when that happens, our man-made systems are designed to RTB or return to base, or they can go to designated landing sites in a link loss. So that same system would be deployed because commonly what happens with a psionic asset who is using a form of intuition and consciousness to connect with the craft, there's a disconnect, we call it, which is like link loss. I can tell you when we run exercises using the psionic assets in an intentional environment to get samples to the ground, we intentionally disconnect the psionic asset so that the HPM systems can be energized, because there are some potential issues that can happen if the psionic asset is still connected to the craft when it's hit with an EMP or other HPM.
I'm told part of their consciousness can stay in the craft.
Yeah. It seems to be the case that the human being can suffer some form of cognitive injury by still being connected to that craft when that craft is de-energized.
So that is crazy, right? So he's saying when these psionic assets summon these craft and make a connection and are able to begin piloting it, they summon them, and as we know, as Stephen Greer has said, that they do this, and then they shoot them with EMP, electromagnetic pulse weapons, to bring them down. He's saying that if the psionic asset hasn't properly disconnected, and they hit it with an EMP weapon, that it gives the psionic asset a cognitive injury, a brain injury. It kills part of their consciousness, which is, I don't fully understand, But it reminds me of when you put your USB in the computer and you don't eject it properly. And you take it out and then you corrupt the file, corrupt the disk. That is what that sounds like, which is a funny little analogy, but it's also pretty accurate.
You met Dr. Stephen Greer.
Yeah, I did.
What was the purpose of meeting Dr. Stephen Greer?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that, you can say what you want about Dr. Greer, but the guy's been 30 years ahead of everyone else on a lot of the details of this subject.
So a lot of what he says is correct.
To me, he's like the Bentwaters. Like, we had everything we needed in 1980, and now we're fishing around for morsels of that. This guy, he's been ahead of everyone. And what I find quite funny is the one thing he gets the most shit for is the one thing he's probably most right about, and that is his CE5 protocol.
So CE5 is when he uses meditation and he claims it engages telepathically with the phenomenon.
Yeah, that's his term for it. Like, we don't use CE5. We don't use Dr. Greer's protocol. No to other people in the program or subsequent programs.
So CE5 is real.
Yeah, if we're going to use his term, I'll tell you what is real is the ability to go into something like a meditative state and summon UAP and pilot UAP. That is real. That's 100% real.
So Stephen Greer has gotten a lot of shit, as we've talked about. Now, I'm not gonna try and convince you if you think Stephen Greer is full of shit. I mean, personally, I think that ship has already sailed with this interview. Like, he's kind of been vindicated pretty well. But forget the claims for a moment of Stephen Greer and just ask yourself this. Do you think, as a human being, you could create a lie knowing deep down in your heart that it's all bullshit, it's fake? Forget what it is, but just that it's fake. You've just made this up. And you then put your face out there to the world and push and push and push that lie for 30 years. Now think about that. Imagine if it's all fake, it's fake in your heart, and everyone's calling you a liar, that you're full of shit, no one likes you, everyone abuses you, like Stephen Greer. I reckon after like 2 at the most, maybe 5, imagine 5 years of that. Could you keep your sanity? And remember, Stephen Greer was a trauma surgeon, okay? He quit his day job of a very high-paid career. Obviously, you need to be very intelligent to even get to become a trauma surgeon. He left that to pursue a lie for 30 years. And remember, for 25 of those 30 years, he was probably the most ridiculed person in UFO lore. Now, I'm not trying to say he's got everything right. Maybe he's a bit off on a couple of things. Possibly, he's human. At least I think. What do you think is more likely? Like, do you think this intelligent person with a great career suddenly just decided to throw it all away and pursue a lie for 30 years, even after being heavily ridiculed for 25 of them? Or is it the case that maybe the people that you've trusted to look out for you weren't telling you the whole truth about reality? Which one of those things do you think is more likely? Think about it. The same people who we've gone through this before, but they told you we need to go to Iraq and invade for weapons of mass destruction. Wasn't true. Take the vaccine, it'll stop the transmission. Wasn't true. Okay, these are essentially the same people. Think about it. And don't emotionally yell a response at the screen or write a comment. Take a deep breath. Think about it. Next clip.
There was a gathering at Esalen.
Okay.
And a lot of very high net worth individuals who were interested in suppression of non-human intelligence attended. What happened?
I think something epic happened. I think something happened that, if it was fully documented and understood, would go in the history books.
I had a feeling last week that was historical.
It felt absolutely historic. What you had was a combination of the world's leading, like most frontier scientists, You had people that were top experts in all their fields. And then you had a variety of fields that was outrageous. We had neurosurgeons, doctors in neurosurgery. We had physicists. We had high net worth individuals in the billions that were extremely open-minded and had a frontier attitude towards all this. We had mystics. We had psychic kids. We had children from Germany that could harness and actually showcase their ability to perform telekinesis, their ability to psychically see things with their mind, and were able to prove that to all of us. We also deployed some of our psionic assets that we've used and are part of our new team with Skywatcher, and we summoned UAP. We had the UAP come and fly around and visit and hang out with us and take off.
And I have to say, I saw it too.
Yeah.
And it was profound. It's a spiritual experience, and what you're trying to do now is replicate in the private sphere what's being suppressed in the public sphere.
Yeah, you know, we're not looking back. You know, we can leave the bad actors of the past, we can leave them with their lies. We have no need for that. We're looking forward. I am absolutely confident that we are capable of generating the type of high quality sensor data and photography and film evidence that everyone is wanting.
So that is really interesting. It sounds like there was recently this convention, this sort of private gathering of some of the elite people in the world with an open mind where they showcased all of this stuff. German children demonstrating telekinesis, summoning craft in front of an audience, and including Ross himself. Ross was there. He said it felt historic, it was spiritual, and it was just an amazing experience. And he said, well, I think they both kind of said actually that high net worth individuals, billionaires, they specified billionaires, there's not that many of them in the world, interested in the suppression of non-human intelligence, not in the way of suppressing it, but the fact that it is suppressed. They want to know. And I don't know if it'll ever come out what this convention was or who was there, but I feel like Elon Musk and possibly Donald Trump were part of that. Remember, this whole thing was strategically planned to happen and release with his inauguration. Like that was a planned timing. That was made very clear. Remember, the first version of Jake Barbers' interview was scheduled 12 hours before the inauguration, okay? And many, many times in the run-up to the election, Ross Coulthard alluded to the fact that Donald Trump getting elected was pivotal to disclosure happening. And once he won the election, Ross came out and made his famous statement that all hell is going to break loose in early 2025. Ross doesn't just say things, okay? He is rooted in evidence and fact. He's not just like throwing stuff out there. He's got a whole career and credibility on the line. He doesn't just say things. And when he speaks, you should listen.
We were then going to take that information and write around it in order to extract more intel through the Dobster process.
So you were running a counter surveillance operation against the very organizations.
That's a red team's best tool right there.
You were doing OP4, opposition
you play
force.
3, 4, 5-dimensional chess. So you play multi-dimensional chess.
So even though they know you and your team were thinking about publishing something, they don't know that you're speaking publicly on national television about the legacy program.
That's a good question. No, they don't, but it doesn't mean I was limited to do that, because I have to tell you about the counterplay. So although they have no poker face, they're in a really tough spot, because not redacting information means that if they just chose, hey, this is sensitive, but we're not going to redact it. Well, now obviously that makes it into the public domain. But by redacting it, they prove that it's sensitive. So they have no idea as to They have no idea as to how you acquired the information. They know based on your security clearance and your background, because it had to be submitted under my official name, it's a social security number, and my record in order to get triggered. And that's how they know what SMEs to send it to. The SMEs who I worked for squashed all kinds of stuff. Then I went to one of the other SMEs I worked for. They squashed their stuff, and it came back with all these squashings in the form of black ink. Now, let me keep going, because the counterplay for them would have been to let certain information go so that it could be formally categorized as not sensitive and the fictional liberties taken by an author of a fictional book. So they could do that. They could have done that. But we didn't really see that. What they did do, however, was they got a sense, they got on to us. They figured out what we were doing, and they said, stop, you cannot submit anything else. You have to submit the whole manuscript. And we told them, well, that is the whole book. We're going to release this like episodes of a special. This is the whole season, but we're going to release it in episodes. So we have to send it to you 10,000 words at a time, because that's how it's going to be released. And they were kind of caught there, and they didn't quite know how to respond.
So there you go. Jake didn't have to go through the DOPSA process, but he did it because he wanted to play 5D chess with these people to work out exactly what was being classified and where it was being classified from. He basically, he's obviously a super high level smart guy and used those skills to basically force their hand. Now, the full explanation is quite a bit longer, but I just wanted to show you that bit and give you a little bit of context, because I did show that clip at the start of the show. But the interview, the extended one, is 2.5 hours, and I'll leave a link to it in the show notes if you want to check it out, because it's super interesting. He goes into everything you saw in the cut version earlier in the week, but into a lot more detail. And there was certainly a lot of things that could have used a bit more explaining.
What we need to know is this. We need to know that we're not alone. We need to know that there's a profound spiritual component to our existence, and that's just for the sake of our own fellowship as creatures sharing this planet, but also there's an extreme amount of utility in our ability that has been suppressed forever. So if we could learn how to use that, and also for those that are keeping the secrets, keeping it secret is a bad way to try and study something. We need an open source. We need all hands on deck, all brains on deck, all consciousness on deck in order to find out how we can exploit this in the best of ways in order to come up with things like 0-point energy, let's say. Until we do so, we're going to be stuck with the same problem we have been for all the civilization, and that's battling for limited resources.
The most beautiful thing that you've described to me, the most exciting thing, is what I think our audience is going to have the biggest trouble with, is believing the idea that human beings have the capacity to do things with their minds that have been suppressed.
Yeah. I just kind of smile because that makes it more entertaining for me, because they're going to be shocked. But you know what? I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think there's more people that believe it. They're just not talking about it. And I can tell you for a fact, even within our world of hardened operators at the highest level, guys that are still in, behind closed doors, we all know it's true, and we have the most emotional talks, like we're part of Oprah's book club. I mean, it's true. And right now we're in a moment where the truth is being obfuscated and twisted. But the truth, I'll tell you, is our weapon. And when we're willing to accept the truth, no matter how profound or earth-shaking, is when we move into a position of power. And it's going to liberate this subject.
Super powerful comments there. That's the last clip from Jake Barber. So he says there, if you are ready to accept the truth, if you allow it, if you even just try, like if you're struggling to digest this, that's okay, because it is wild. I get it. But all I would say is just try to open your mind enough to be open to the idea, right? Because there are groundbreaking changes happening right now around the world, in America, and even the things that make you feel uncomfortable, that you don't like, that you're not happy about. I'm not saying just like change your mind and be loud and proud and support it. I'm saying allow your mind to be open to the possibility that this could be a good thing. it could work. Open your mind, because the moment you don't, then it never ever will. That's how powerful your mind is. Okay, so you have to at least accept and have some hope that it could be a good thing. This far into the show, you should start to realize how powerful you are. When you believe in the negativity and fear that is rampant in the online world, mainly X, but everywhere really, it's saturated. And when you feed into that, you then create that same negativity and fear in your personal world. Okay, same stuff that we went through before. This is what Jake Barber is talking about. And it does feel like right now, with this disclosure, with this whole change of administration and the way things are going, we are at a tipping point. And I know some people aren't happy about it. And that's okay. I'm not trying to make you change your mind. I'm just saying, have faith. You can have your beliefs and how you feel, that's okay, but try and project some positivity and hope, because I believe that is essential to coming out the other side in a better place. If you remain fearful and negative and angry about it, then that resistance and that friction is not going to allow the world to morph and get out of this hole that we're in. So that wraps up Jake Barber. I've got Hal Puthoff's How to Remote View coming at the end. It's coming soon. We're all going to be psychics by the end of this show. But let's get into the next section, right? I said I had a little update about the 4chan, and of course, I've got a whole bunch of other things weaved in here as well, because that is how my chaotic mind works. So first thing we're going to look at, or the first 4chan thread we're going to touch on, is the most recent one that we went through. So the one where we're talking about sort of sonar radar. And look, first thing, I want to apologize. I've evidently deeply upset some people after I said the mayor of New Jersey instead of a mayor of New Jersey. Okay, it did take about 713 of you to get the point across, but I get it now. And I apologize. I am Australian. I grew up on an island of convicts. Okay, so forgive me. I'm a human. Now, the big theme of this video, of this video here, not the one you're watching now, was the phenomenon's ability to mimic, to shapeshift into things that, if people saw it, they wouldn't look twice, like an airplane or something like that. Now, these were the words of Michael Melham, who was one of the many mayors within New Jersey. Now, if you haven't seen that video yet, you should go and check it out. Not right now. Finish this one first. You can look at that later. Now, the orbs that allegedly come from deep within our oceans, according to what we saw in this video, and shapeshift into drones, according to a mayor of New Jersey, have made their way to Australia. They're here. And we've got a really good video to check it out.
One right there, another one.
What the hell, boy?
A second ago. One right there, up there.
And there's one in the far
And
right.
one over there. One
Yeah.
right there.
No, that one's going up, and then that
oh my
one's
God, bro.
going straight.
There's some flashing over here now. Look,
Where?
over there, bro.
No, but that's the plane that went.
Nah, man, that's coming from a different direction. Look.
Oh my
Look,
God,
look
I'm
at this
sorry.
one coming in. Look at this one coming in now. Different colors. Different colors.
Oh look, it's
Green.
yellow, red.
This is crazy, brother. Look at that. Different one. Different one.
But why do they sound like planes?
Exactly, they're mimicking, bro. They're mimicking. They can be whatever they want.
This guy, he
They
knows.
can resemble whatever our brains think looks familiar. Do you get me? You get me, bro, right? Look at the front of that.
He
Look
needs
at
that
the front of on the
reassurance. Come on, brother. You with me?
camera. A light just came underneath it. This is crazy. This is crazy. What is that? Oh my God, it just shined purple underneath. It just shined purple underneath. Oh. This is crazy.
Like, what are those lights?
This
What about that
is-
one over there? Looks like a Christmas.
Yeah, there's so many, bro.
But wait, there's more.
There's so many right now. One up there too. This one right here.
That one looks like it's
Look, these ones are gonna like intercept each other. Like, what's going on here? Look at my camera.
Yeah, it's gonna hit.
I can't. It won't let me focus.
Oh, what? What? What?
What's
Wait.
going on? Bro, this one's just going up. Look. See, that's no flight path, is it, Nor? That's no flight path, is it, Nor?
But wasn't that just there?
Yep. Yep.
How do you go from there to there?
Exactly. Bro, this is
I
crazy.
didn't even look. And
Another
it's
one over
already
here.
Gone.
Another one over here. Look.
Oh, that was horrifically loud. Sorry about that. That even blew my ears out. So I'm pretty sure that video was filmed in Brisbane, in Queensland, in Australia. So the first main plane that we saw, the person who posted it, oh, by the way, was Joel Simpson. Hopefully I said that right, on TikTok. Shout out to him for letting me use that clip. The first main plane that he focused on has so many random and strange lights that are not really consistent with like a normal aircraft. And this is exactly what the OP of the thread in this video that we went through is talking about. He said in recent years, his team had noticed that the level of mimicry it's like it had become lazy, and like little slip ups and little, like the quality had just dropped, and there was little things that they were noticing. And also a double shout out to that guy for being obviously the guy in his friends group who has his finger on the pulse. And he's not afraid to tell his friends the wild reality of what they are potentially seeing. So in this video as well, I managed to solve the UFO phenomenon. We worked out what the interest in nukes is. Now look, I don't actually think I solved the phenomenon. But it was interesting how they talked about how these things emitted their own electromagnetic field. And obviously, like magnets interact with each other. And when we detonate nukes, which they seem to be highly interested in, we disrupt and send gamma rays and kind of disturb and like electromagnetic pulses through our own natural magnetic field, which I believe would, if this is to be believed, would disrupt them. So it would make sense why they're interested, right? Look, I can't prove that, but it makes sense to me. But we'll wait and see with that one. Now, I also drew a connection between the physics that this person explains and what we see in the MH370 abduction video. Theoretically, this mechanism could create a mobile threshold point, treating it as an emergence event in reverse. Is that what this is? Because the plane's not emerging, it's doing the opposite. It's going in reverse. It's disappearing. What is that sound? I think I can hear the MH370 rapid response team. They're arriving in the comments, drawing their weapons. Don't shoot. This is a controversial topic. I know, I get it. Relax. I want to be clear that I'm open to those videos being fake. Okay, I'm open to that. I have an open mind. But so far, in my opinion, as a visual effects artist myself, finding an asset where one frame almost matches is literally so far away from conclusive evidence, it's not funny. Not just because it's not a perfect match, but what is, like, people, I don't think people think about what is the theory behind that. If this was a hoax video that someone just did in their bedroom and they went online looking for an explosion asset to use in their fake animation, finding the actual animation that this apparently comes from, where one frame almost matches, why didn't you just use the animation? Why didn't you just use the animation? Why would, like I've made plenty of animations and things through my time at university. Never have I ever considered getting an asset, finding one single frame, adjusting it, and then, by the way, what did they do? What about the other frames? They don't look anything like the rest of the asset, okay? Why would they take a single frame in the middle of the animation and make some small adjustments to it? It just does not make sense. Like, think about it. And, you know, the universe works in very funny ways, as we know, because literally the day after that video came out, and I actually got a shout out from Ashton Forbes, so that was cool, thank you. Jesse Michaels uploaded a video with Salvatore Pais. Check this out.
Don't forget Dave Rossi's fourth orb. There must be 4 orbs. Remember the whole idea that once you open the black hole, what if there is a white hole? But the three orbs would have your 3 axes, hence your point of origin. But there must be a destination, so there must be a 4th orb.
Meaning negative mass rate.
There must be a 4th orb.
So you think this is?
It's not me. Dave Rossi came up with this idea that there must be a 4th orb. I think he's one right on the money. Dave Rossi is a very interesting engineer that should be looked into as well. So he's very smart.
Why would you
Brilliant.
teleport a commercial airplane, and where did the airplane end up? Or is it the plot? Or
All I'm saying is when I saw that thing open up, I saw the Pice effect in action.
Okay, so when guys like Salvatore Pais, who works for the US Space Force as an aerospace engineer and is an inventor with some amazing patents, speaks publicly about these videos and is saying that he understands what is going on there. He understands what he's seeing, and that he wasn't surprised to see that pop happen and after the orbs had rotated around the plane and the plane disappeared. He wasn't surprised. He expected it. They're his words. So I'm sorry, but we need to at least be paying attention here with an open mind. Because again, just like what I say about Carl Nell, Chaim Eshed, and Paul Hellyer, these people are in the top echelons of society, and they're telling us things that are quite amazing. So either all of the people in the top echelons of society have suddenly gone crazy, or we're about to learn that reality is very different. Now, he was saying that that's not his concept, right? He's a highly respected engineer working on the fringes of science and physics, saying that the theory is of a guy called Dave Rossi, who is an anti-gravity and quantum energy inventor. And it's Dave Rossi's theory that how what we see there makes sense, that there is likely a fourth orb, and where that fourth orb is the destination of wherever all of that plane and those three orbs ended up. Okay, so they basically like create this like quantum field displacement and snap to the fourth orb. That's the best I can explain it for you. I'm not a scientist, but when these guys are coming out saying this stuff, I think we should at least have an open mind, right? Now, the fourth orb thing, hilariously, is why Ashton Forbes has adopted the nickname Ashton Four Orbs. Like, the universe is hilarious. His name is Ashton Forbes. He's become famous for researching this thing, and now he's Ashton Four Orbs. Like, dude, that is just fucking... I love that. That is hilarious. Now, look, the people who don't believe this video, I know you're upset. I know, it's okay. I'm not going to point and laugh at you for getting this wrong. If you are wrong, I completely understand how hard it is to digest what we see in those videos. But unless you are willing to come out online with your face and your credentials that exceed Salvatore Pais and explain to us why he is wrong, I'm sorry, but no one's listening to you. Okay? Unless someone with the source files of the original project that made this 3D animation wants to come out and show us, I'm sorry. I really am. I really am. With everything that's going on in the world right now, the probability of this technology existing and being used is far likelier than a bedroom compositor in 2014 throwing together an animation of three orbs teleporting a plane within days of the MH370 disappearing and creating the animation by finding a stock asset and then getting a single frame and deciding to manipulating it for fuck knows why, and then creating the rest of the animation somehow, doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And also, if Salvatore Pais is looking at that going, yeah, with my insanely advanced understanding of physics, yeah, it makes sense. Oh, so some 2014 bedroom compositor in After Effects apparently is replicating the fringe physics of 2025. Yeah. Okay, I don't think so. Hey, but I'm open to being wrong, but I feel very strongly in that, as hard to believe as it is, I think it's real. And look, while we're talking about three rotating orbs, let's check out this clip that has just come out online. Now, this was a vertical clip, like a TikTok, but I stretched it out over the whole screen to try and get a better view, and it actually held up kind of well. So check this out.
Hey y'all, you're welcome to McDonald's at 12 a.m. at night. Look what we got us right here. We got us some of that alien action everybody's been talking about on the news. Look at that right there. I was about to get me a McRib too. Wait, you think they want a McRib? Hey, y'all want a McRib? Y'all want a McRib? I'll get him a McRib. Would you think I should give him a McRib? All right, y'all stay safe out there, you heard?
I wonder if he ever got the McRib. Now look, that video is obviously done in After Effects by a bedroom compositor who likes McRibs and loves McDonald's, obviously. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's obviously real too, and it just supports everything else. Now, let's get into the other 4chan video, okay? This is a little update on what's been going on. So I'm talking about the one, let me show you. This one here. Okay, this video that popped up on 4chan just days after the original Jake Barber video, and it was another egg, okay? That's why we had the egg theme earlier. And there was a few other things. There was details about a pod, where next to where they found this egg, they found a 700-year-old alien entity that awoke from this cryogenic-like chamber eventually. Yes, wild story. It was on 4chan, but it was very interesting. We read through it, and he said that on the 27th, he will have a lot more evidence, right? Now, before then, he popped back up on 4chan. Well, someone popped back up on 4chan with these AI images. Well, sorry, with these images of the alien that I think are just AI, personally. I'll show you them in a minute. And also a 10-minute audio recording of an interview with this alien. Now, I considered making a video to follow up on this because, you know, if we're talking about stories that have interesting developments, of course, I'll keep you up to date. But I decided not to because the 4chan thread that it came from just devolved into like new depths of degeneracy, and it just didn't feel credible. And I mean, it's already coming from 4chan. So when it gets like messy, like I'm probably just going to stay away. You know, it just felt like someone taking advantage of the egg hype and was trolling. So if you haven't seen the original video yet, go and check that one out too. You've got a whole list of videos you need to go and check out after this one. I'll give you a quick rundown of what happened in the thread, right? I don't have any things to show you, but I'll give you a quick rundown. Basically, someone posted the interview first. So they posted the recording with these AI images. And they were like, okay, here's the recording. This is what the alien looks like, blah, blah, blah. They were then going back and forth asking questions. Then like very soon after, another thread started saying, they're the feds. They stole the recording from me. They came to my house, killed my dog, and nearly killed me. He's a liar, blah, blah, blah. And then both of these threads started just going into this absolute hellhole and then they both had their own usernames, which not everyone has on 4chan, right? And then the person with the username running this thread posted on this thread, like saying the same things. So it just got really weird. That's why I didn't cover it, okay? But in like the last 24 hours, the actual guy has apparently came back with more photos of an egg and the recovery and stuff like that. I haven't looked at it properly and I haven't looked at the thread. If any of you guys have and you want to see me read through it, let me know. I'll check it out, and if I think it looks cool, maybe we'll do a video on it. But I don't just want to milk 4chan for content, right? We're better than that. We are better than that. So I'll show you what the alien looks like, apparently. This is him, apparently. Now, first of all, let's make this a bit smaller. First of all, just off the bat, these images look extremely AI generated. Like, they just do. And there are some small, like, inconsistencies as well, I think, with the eyes and the ears. Maybe even the nose as well. Yeah. It just feels a bit off. And the interview was weird. I considered even giving you guys a couple of minutes of the audio interview, but I have linked it in the Discord. If you join our Discord, it's open to everybody. The Polarity members get their own spot in there as well. So if you want to check that out, join the Discord. The link's in the description. And actually, while I mention members quickly, in that video, this one here, as I was reading through the 4chan threads and posts and comments, I thought it would be funny and clever to edit one of them, edit the text and edit the picture, and put on the Polarity members badge. And I turned it into like a question where I said that someone asked this person, like, how do I get a how do I get one of those sick badges next to my name like the awesome people in the comments? And then I was like, oh, you can do that by subscribing to Polarity for $5 a month. And I just read it like it was, I didn't break character. I just kept going. And I thought it would be funny. I thought people would get it. I had multiple people, more than one, like say things to me. Like the funniest thing that someone said to me was, this Polarity guy, this is bullshit. This whole 4chan thread is a fake so he can plug his members channel. This guy thought I made an hour, 20-minute long video and engineered an entire fake 4chan thread to plug my membership that after YouTube take a cut, I get $3 a month for. Oh, I just thought that was hilarious. I thought it would kind of be obvious that it was just like a joke, but I guess because I didn't break character, some people didn't pick up on it, which is fair. You know, we only know each other over the internet. You don't quite know me yet. I've only posted 20 videos. We'll get to know each other. You'll get to know my weird humor. But yeah, I just thought that was funny because no, that wasn't a real post in the 4chan thread. No one was asking about this channel with 4,000 subscribers. That was me. Ha. Okay, I've teased you all enough now. Let's learn how we can become psychics. So, this was a book written by Hal Puthoff, who's very, well, I wouldn't say very prominent in the UFO community, but he's very well known and very well respected for his research and time spent in this field, in, you know, studying psionics, telepathy, and all that kind of stuff, right? So again, this comes from his book that he wrote in 1977, but the pages that I'm about to read for you were declassified in 2003. So the first page I'll read for you is just the intro page. Now, so I got these declassified pages on a PDF from the CIA website. I'll leave a link to it in the description if you want to check them out. This was on there. So I don't know if the introduction was actually redacted. Kind of seems like a weird thing to redact. Maybe it was. But obviously what is in the last page, which I'm going to read, I'm only going to read you 2 pages, but the how-to guide was the last one on this PDF document. So let's read this. This book is a clear, straightforward account of a set of successful experiments that demonstrate the existence of remote viewing. An unvalidated human capacity. The conventional and time-honored canons of the laboratory have been observed, aided by our current repertoire of instrumentation, Faraday shielding, specifically generated sets of random numbers, and cathode rays. Okay, I really should have read this first because there's a lot of challenging words here. People, both inexperienced learners as well as those who have previously demonstrated psychic proficiency, have been used as subjects successfully. That's important. They're saying people who have a natural predisposition to these things, they work, but so do people who don't. Okay, anyone can do this stuff. It is a perfectly regular and normal piece of scientific work, as is the study of communication among bees, the luminescence of fireflies, the way in which frogs discriminate between the sexes, or the scientific study of any new biological phenomena. Contemporary quantum physics specifies qualities of electromagnetic fields, specific qualities of electromagnetic fields, and advances in brain research not only have determined the experimental methods, but have contributed to the tentative explanations advanced in this book as to how this newly observed ability might operate. As all work following the canons of science must be, the experiments are presented in a form that can be inspected and replicated under the same conditions, and further tested by altering various experimental parameters. Okay, we got there. We got there in the end. I'm laughing because for some reason, I really struggled to read that. I have not gotten a lot of sleep the last 2 nights, and I am feeling kind of tired. And yeah, that was a battle, unfortunately. But hopefully you got the picture. It's interesting that they talk about how contemporary quantum physics, specific qualities of it, of electromagnetic fields, is kind of, it's explaining it. Like it is the science behind telepathy and behind psychic abilities. I've said before in my videos that quantum physics literally explains magic. It tells us that all points in time and space are connected through quantum entanglement and superposition. Like There is science out there that is explaining this stuff. It is just very hard to wrap your head around. I'm not claiming I'm an expert. I probably know a bit more about it than the average person, but I'm in no way an expert. But I do want to do a video on like the quantum leap that we are about to take and what it could potentially mean. Okay, now let's get to the page you all want to read. This is the page, and it's obviously really small there, so I'm going to read it from here myself. So I'm just reading from this little column here. If you guys go to the PDF, it's this right-hand side column. So the top bolder text says, "Now try this new psychic experiment on yourself. Here is how to teach yourself the remote viewing technique put forward by Dr. Hal Puthoff and Dr. Russell Targ. Determine if you feel any resistance to the idea of psychic functioning or the belief that you can describe a scene beyond your normal senses. Full stop. This is low quality and it's kind of hard to read. Has someone in authority said it was impossible or nonsense? Repeat these questions until you feel comfortably convinced, even though you may suspect that the suspension of disbelief is only temporary." Okay, so what he's saying there is like the first thing you need to do is you need to open your mind to it. You have to believe. You have to believe it. And, ask yourself, has someone been telling you that this isn't true? You need to get that out of your mind first, or at least suspend it truly for a moment for this to work. Ask a friend to pick a location, preferably unknown to you, and tell the friend to be there at a particular time and to remain there for 15 minutes. The person at the target site must pay attention to where he is and observe. So it's important. And again, this is about the bridge. You need to have a bridge. You need two people who are on the same wavelength. So they need to be focusing on, not just standing there on their phone. They need to be focusing on what they're looking at. At the same time, you and the subject should be in a quiet, perhaps dimly lit place where you are comfortable. Sit up and remain alert. About 1 minute before the time the experiment is to begin, relax and calm your thoughts. It is not necessary to do more than this. No special routine or meditation is needed. Now try to describe the target location to yourself or to another friend. Describe the mental images that seem to be associated with the target area. Just relate the basic colors, the shapes, and the feelings. It is essential to avoid trying to name the place. Try sketching the images that come to mind. Be willing to draw what pops into your mind, even though you don't know what it is that the drawings represent. So again, be willing to just follow your intuition. Don't question it. Just trust what is coming to your mind. You should visit the remote target as soon as possible after the end of the 15-minute interval allotted for remote viewing. In this way, feedback takes place while the images are still fresh in your mind, and you can make an internal comparison that will be useful in future experiments. After trying this experiment, do you think you can do remote viewing? Tell the star of your experience. $5 for every letter published. Okay, I think the rest is irrelevant. But there you go. Go and try it. Let's learn how to remote view. That is from Hal Puthoff, one of the most famous people in this space when it comes to this research, and who also features in the upcoming movie, The Age of Disclosure. Now, I was actually going to put the trailer of that in this show, but I didn't because I felt like this is going to be a really long show, and it's only gone an hour and a half, which is a good time. I like that. I think that's a good time. But I've actually uploaded it as a short on my channel. So if you are interested, this seems like a documentary. Now, of course, it could be more of the same. But we've seen lots of documentaries from like the same people, right? We've seen lots from Stephen Greer, James Fox. They're good, but to have something fresh that kind of seems like it's got a bit of a different tone is very interesting. Now, this documentary seems to be focused purely on people in very high positions in the government telling us about this and that it's real. And there's also a clip of Jay Stratton, who was the head of the UAP task force for a while, saying that he has firsthand seen like alien craft firsthand come face to face with an alien entity. Jay Stratton, the head of the UAP task force, says that to the camera. So I think this Age of Disclosure movie, which is meant to be coming out in a few months, could be pretty groundbreaking. And again, guys, the timing of everything, the coordination of Jake Barber and Trump and all this stuff happening now, learning that we're psychic, the age of disclosure, Jay Stratton telling us his thing. This is a planned disclosure. This is all coordinated. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying like this, it's happening. It's unfolding in front of us. So that almost wraps up the show for today, guys. Before I let you go though, we touched on the Simpsons and the way that they've kind of predicted the future and how artists pull their inspiration potentially from like a higher dimension, a higher entity, or some kind of channel or perhaps a psychic ability, potentially seeing into the future. Jake Barber spoke about how the energy that he encountered imbued him with love and happiness, and that we all have the potential to kind of tap into this and transform our world. It is up to us now. I mean, like, you know, I think we're going to continue to be, but we have had the first deliverance of this message. How are we going to accept this? Right now, the world is pretty full of fear and anger and aggression. Not everyone, but probably more. They're winning the majority. They're winning the majority vote. We all have a choice right now on how we are going to take this information. Are we going to start calling everyone grifters? Are we going to start accusing everyone of being disinfo agents? I'm not saying don't think critically, but we have a choice. And I think collectively we should make a pact to not let the Simpsons get another prediction right. Now I'm going to show you that clip, but first of all, I do want to say thank you for watching. Thank you to the members. You guys go the extra mile for me. If you want to join and support me, it's $5 a month. You can become a Polarity member, get an awesome badge next to your name in the comments. You get access to members-only videos and your own space in our Discord. But please, it's not necessary. I appreciate you just being here, and I want you to join our Discord, even if you're not a member. It's open to everyone. So thank you for watching. Thank you to my weirdos. I appreciate you guys so much. Be kind, be good, go and touch some grass, and I'll see you next time. Let's hope the Simpsons don't get this one right.
Believe that there is like a counterintelligence play.
Okay. This we nearly got there. This happened last show. We got all the way to the end and we ruined it. No, we didn't ruin it. Okay, I know what went wrong. We're gonna fix it.
Homie, I'm so sorry I doubted you. I bring you love. It's bringing love. Don't let it get away.
Break its legs.
Yeah.